People say sales tax. I understand. So do Americans pay sales tax.
Yes.
But accounting for the income revenue that we actually see having to and here's also the problem too, right? Like you said, these have to be. That's why I give you a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with people who are not only not on the books, but are incentivized to stay off the books, and even more, the employers are incentivized to keep them off the books as a result of policy.
Yeah, he's actually raising a good point. You can pay taxes without a social security.
Our immigration issues. Yeah, deport all illegal aliens. And if you disagree with that, you're more than welcome to change my mind.
Okay. To be clear, is that black and white and sort of, like, is that your entire point of view, or is it more nuanced? Do you have more?
Well, obviously it's more nuanced. I can't fit it on a sign, but
I figured.
That's the starting point.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the starting point. I think we've tried it the other way forever, going back to, well before it, but Reagan granting amnesty to 3 million. The number's increased by 450% since then. Mm-hmm. We've been lenient. The cost is astronomical. Crime in many of the sanctuary cities is out of control. And I also think, look, a big difference now, considering the sheer influx in the last decade. I think Americans have the right to want to preserve a culture here, where they're footing the bill as taxpayers to feel like strangers in their own town, where they don't have common language, common culture, common values. So all of that, I think the starting off point is we're going to be hardline on it.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. I guess immediately, what do you see as the immediate cost of immigration? You bring up how it can cost the American taxpayer. What's your opinion on that?
So, well, here, and also so you don't take my word for it. You can take that to check any references.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Because I know, especially at school, people
we talk about grad school, references to everything.
Yes, and we do that every day on the show, by the way, because it really bothers me when people just make claims like, well, where'd you get that? My brother. So it costs, the estimate is $150 billion to $450 billion a year, taxpayers. People say, well, I'm not saying that no illegal aliens pay taxes. That's not what I'm saying. The offset is about 17.
So this debate is about deporting all illegal immigrants, which I'm actually kind of shocked that this is even a debate, because illegal immigrants are illegal, but this is where we are. When there's a housing crisis in America, where people's taxes are going up, people's health care is possibly going up, we're talking about, and this perfectly shows the irony right now. We're talking about illegal non-citizens. When your life is getting worse, you're talking about non-citizens. It's something, but let's not waste any more time and get right into it.
8%. It offsets it. So including the number of people who pay taxes, all but the total number is $150 to $450 billion. That's significant. The cost of deporting illegal aliens, if we were to take the high number in the last 4 years, the number is probably closer to 15 million. Let's call it 12 million. But if we were to deport 20 million illegal aliens, right now, it costs $17,000 per illegal alien. These are estimates. It would cost you about billion. If I said million, I meant billion in all these instances. Okay. $300-something billion, $340 billion, $360 billion to deport them. You'd end up effectively saving money within the year, call it a year and a half.
So that's including making ICE the largest federally funded law enforcement organization?
You can put that in your pocket, but you can keep it. Yeah, we have plenty.
Yeah.
Yes. That's including all of it. Yep.
Okay.
That's including the cost of self-deportations as well, versus having to chase people down and deport them, all of it.
Okay. So, with the fact that, I'm not entirely educated on the exact statistics, though we all understand that statistics, like anything, you can use to lie.
Sure.
Not that you're doing that, just that
I agree.
Be cognizant of the type of statistics that we're quoting and all those sorts of things.
Yes.
But the IRS allows you to pay taxes without a SSN, a Social Security number. And for example, they want you to. They'll track you down even if you're, not, you know what I mean?
Well, they'll track you down. They'll go up your hiney with a sigmoidoscope.
So,
in my case, they use an IMAX wide-angle lens.
So that's right. You're from Canada? No?
I'm born in Detroit, but spent a lot of time in Canada.
Okay, so I'm just vaguely remembering things.
I'm ashamed of it. It's a horrible place.
I don't know much about it. I've never been, honestly.
You're better off.
Okay.
But so the IRS, you're saying they can track you whether you have a Social Security number or not.
Okay, so you're of the opinion, with statistics back it up, that there are just millions of illegal aliens not paying taxes?
Yes.
Okay. I suppose, could you inform me as to why?
Well, the numbers bear it out. And here's the other problem. It actually isn't fully
detail
true.
of how those things were.
Yeah, so again, this is, and the reason that this really sticks in my mind is because when I did a change of mind on building the wall a long time ago, the number was about 116 billion per year. The lowest estimate you'll find is 150 billion. People say sales tax. I understand. So do Americans pay sales tax.
Yes.
But accounting for the income revenue that we actually see having to and here's also the problem too, right? Like you said, these have to be. That's why I give you a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
Because when you're dealing with people who are not only not on the books, but are incentivized to stay off the books, and even more, the employers are incentivized to keep them off the books as a result of policy.
Yeah, he's actually raising a good point. You can pay taxes without a Social Security, which kind of implies there's this sort of implicit, acceptance that there's illegal immigration in America. Why are you allowed to pay taxes without a Social Security? Why would any American entity even allow that to happen? It doesn't make any sense because every American citizen has a Social Security. So it shouldn't even be a reason you can pay taxes without a Social Security. Like, I'm not even trying to go at any agencies. It doesn't make legal sense to me that that's even an option. But what I'm getting from this is that the reason why that's an option is because people know that there are people in the United States who do not have socials because they're here illegally, which kind of shows that you're allowing it to happen in some way, shape, or fashion. But I'm going to say this. I don't know too much about how the illegal immigration system works, so that's why I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But it's just a strange little topic for me. Let's continue.
It's difficult to track, but you'd be hard-pressed to find someone say that it's a net benefit to the American taxpayer, illegal aliens.
Okay, that's a fair point. Yeah. And you also bring up the fact that American culture, that this we bring in all these illegal immigrants,
Yes.
and it sort of devalues American culture.
Yeah.
Do you think that you talked about Ronald Reagan earlier. You've heard his quote that the only thing that defines an American is a willingness to come to this country, and anybody can become an American.
Could become an American, yeah.
Yes.
That's the important part of that quote.
So you think definitionally what becomes an American is assimilation to our culture?
So yeah, I think that if I see someone who's here, who's sending money back to the country they claim to flee and they don't speak the common language, I view them as less American.
Okay, so because most of those people are supporting their parents, which is really common in a lot of other cultures.
Yep.
And you disagree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, we have to look out for the best interests of Americans. I don't know if I'm sure that you know this to some degree, and you'll find out in the workforce, but a lot of Americans are struggling. Mm-hmm. There's over 7.5 million Americans, 7.4 depending on the year, looking for jobs. They're willing to do the jobs that are being imported at cheaper wages. Mm-hmm. They're struggling. A country needs to look out for the best interests of its citizens, as all of these other countries do.
Yes.
The immigration laws are far more harsh in Mexico, far more harsh, for example, in Japan and Korea, and even many South American countries. India had an official language being English, one of many before the United States. So yeah, that's not a benefit to the American taxpayer. Someone coming here, working a job that an American would do, to send money to another country is not something, that's not building a country, that's taking from. That's my opinion.
Well, you bring up Japan and Korea, and those are really great examples of extremely xenophobic countries that dislike people that they're not considered nationalists.
Including each other.
Yeah, exactly. Koreans hate Japan.
But I didn't just bring them up, I bring up Mexico.
Yeah,
I can't own waterfront property in Mexico if I go there legally.
Yes.
I can't protest.
The reason I bring up those two, and you could include Mexico as well, is I think the United States is distinctively better because we have so many people not from this country working within it. We have greater ideas. We have, for example, I said that I was interested in graduate school and that I've spoken with a lot of those people. A lot of graduate students aren't from this country.
Sure.
And without question, that makes every single graduate program with non-Americans in it better for it, because they have to be so much better than us to get into these programs.
Not always.
In my experience, which is
not always
relative to
and there are also a lot of people who are, there are these degree mills. India is largely the epicenter of this, where there are fraudulent degrees and there are placing firms that take money off the top, and they come in, they're not any more qualified, they're not any more skilled. I have no problem with someone coming to this country legally and wanting to pursue an education and becoming an American. We have those processes that exist, but that's not all the immigrants that we're seeing right now. And an issue for me, when you have a shared value system, we have a shared common language, mm-hmm. and a shared specific value in contributing and building a country. So you say a lot of different points of view. Yeah, let's take, for example, like when people think immigrants, they'll often think like Ellis Island, that's sort of like Italians and the Irish, and they might have disagreed, but the truth is people coming from Italy, Ireland, Germany, Poland, take your pick, They came here, right, only a nickel in their pocket, at great risk to themselves, at no benefit. As a matter of fact, they left often the creature comforts and sort of a social safety net, in some cases of the previous country, at risk to themselves, but the promise of freedom. That's the only thing promised here that wasn't promised anywhere else. Well, the benefit was freedom. Not EBT, not Social Security, not going into an emergency room and not paying the bill. Not that. There's a huge difference between immigrating pre-welfare state and post-welfare state. And so it needs to be the value of building and contributing to a country. And if people don't meet that criteria, they serve none of the American people's best interests.
Well, I mean, you talk about coming here for EBT or other benefits. And the just simple fact is that a lot of these things existed. You talk about welfare state, 1930s.
As a broad term,
yeah. We still saw immigration built up for these in the 60s, and it really hasn't become this hot and button issue until recently. And so what necessarily changed, and just to say more specifically, that a lot of the people that come here to work jobs aren't getting from degree mills.
Some aren't. No, I know.
No, I know. But a lot
there'd
of them
be no
go
way
to
of
like
correcting
IIT
it.
Bombay, for example, a very good school.
Some.
That a lot of them in graduate programs at the very least that are receiving doctorates here in this country, which is a large that's a great example of an industry which heavily relies on immigrants.
Which industry?
Graduate education.
Yeah, graduate education. So graduate education at large, regardless of area of study?
I suppose I can only speak into engineering.
Okay.
Specifically industrial engineering.
Okay.
But we see a lot of immigrants.
So you don't think there are enough Americans who could do those jobs capably that we need to import them?
I don't know, but I know for a fact that if I get beat out for a spot in that education, it's not because I wasn't qualified. It's not because they were less qualified than me.
What if you get beat out in the job force just because someone will do it cheaper, like 30-40% because they come from a third world country where that's acceptable to them?
Well, that's just capitalism for you, I suppose.
Bro, what? You're basically accepting somebody taking your job because they're willing to spend or take $30,000 less than you. And you're just here supporting it. Americans are very interesting. Like, they have very interesting beliefs. Like, you would fight tooth and nail against capitalism. You'll be mad at Donald Trump for being a capitalist. You will say housing prices are too high. You will say groceries are too high. You would say everything is too high, but in the same breath, you would support an immigrant. And these are my opinions. This is what you're saying. You would support an immigrant taking your job and use the logic of, well, that's just capitalism for it, with a smile on your face. I just don't get it. I don't understand. This cognitive dissonance is insane. But back to the initial point. 50% of researchers in the United States are immigrants. And that's not a bad thing. That's not an inherently bad thing. But this whole debate that we're talking about is not even about them. Most of them are on H-1B visas or they're legal immigrants. We're talking about illegal immigrants. They're separate. They're not the same. And I think we forget that. Illegal immigrants are not researchers at NASA. They're not. That's not what they're doing. Like, they legally cannot do that. So the fact that you're even bringing them up is just kind of weird to me when you're having a debate about illegal immigrants. They're not even the same. They're completely separated.
Oh.
You just
No, it's not.
Okay, so what?
It's not if someone is coming and they're sending their money back to a country that doesn't serve the American. No, it does, especially too. There'd be no way of verifying, right? That's the issue. There's no way of verifying if it's legitimate. And I think we would agree, the employers who turn a blind eye, you've created a modern class of slave labor. You can go to neighborhoods here where you'll find 16 families living in a house, taking a job that an American would do for much lower wages. A commission is taken off the top from one of these placement firms, and Americans are out of work. You can't tell me that there aren't enough Americans who will do jobs in tech in Palo Alto or engineering. I know we have brilliant minds here. You seem to be one of them. And I guess the question would become, what do you believe the criteria should be? Because now we've gone from illegal aliens, but I think this is a good conversation. What do you think the criteria should be for someone to be given that golden ticket of American citizenship or green card?
I think the idea of a golden ticket for Americans, when I say that, I mean that American citizenship is such a great ideal. It should be more accessible. And that's a large issue I feel with a lot of the idea of illegal immigration is our broken immigration system. And I don't feel that that's necessarily a hot take, you could say.
No, can you point me to any other example? Because I think we agree that it's an unbelievable, the citizenship or green card is a value, right? You're saying golden ticket. I use that, it's hyperbole, but I think you agree with it. Can you give me an example where something else that is intensely valuable, its value is maintained or increased by making it cheaper? or available to all with lower standards? Where else do we do that?
What's a false equivalency? Citizenship has value because the people here make it great, and it's not a commodity that we're selling. So it doesn't have inherent value that you can trade for it.
Well, I'm saying it does, though. It has a lot of value. That's why people want to come here. So if you're the one who's holding this item, in this case, it's obviously sort of more nebulous, but a citizenship, but something of value, what should the requirements be, considering that we have so many people here who also value it and want to remain in this country?
I'd like to agree with Ronald Reagan. In fact, the only thing that makes an American is a willingness to be American. Anybody can come from any part of the world and become an American.
So what does that mean? What is it to become an American?
I suppose in my opinion, you could say that to become an American is just simply a willingness to make this country great.
Yeah.
And a lot of immigrants have that. That's why they come here.
How does someone make this country great?
They improve itself through their communities, themselves, the country at large. When we talk about making America great as a very large...
No, I'm not talking about the slogan.
No,
I get what you're saying.
I'm not referencing that. I just mean, in general, making a very large institution better. Mm-hmm. There's really no way to quantify that unless you want to get into specifics of a GDP. I mean in terms of values and cultural systems. You can't quantify that.
Okay, well, how would... I think you can quantify it as far as net contributions versus net deductions. But as far as culturally, I've kind of put forth my position,
yes,
right?
Sir.
That's improving the culture, shared values. It's why these people have left these countries. I believe these countries are inferior culturally. So what would your criteria, and this isn't a trick question, it's a real conversation that needs to take place.
Yeah.
What is it to be an American, and how does an immigrant coming here, how do they make it better? Because I think that should be the criteria for who we accept. Do you make this country better? And if the answer is no, then I think you should make your country better. I think if, for example, H-1Bs, I think there's quite a bit in engineering, but I know a lot in tech. I think it's probably more heavily skewed tech, but quite a few Indian engineers. If they're so great and the most brilliant and best, why does India still look like India?
When you say look like India, what do you mean?
I mean a poor country, I mean a backwards country, I mean where people can't get access to basic healthcare, basic necessities, I mean starving, I mean diseases that we've eradicated here that they still suffer from. I mean hundreds of thousands of people dying from snake bites. That's not a joke.
No, I understand.
No, but literally,
yes,
It's a third world country. Why aren't the best and brightest turning India into America number 2?
Well, a lot of those things, when you talk about being a backwards country, and a lot of the things they face because being so rural, are more to do with cultural values and things that you place into...
But here's the thing, bro. Here's the thing. What does this have to do with America, bro? What does this have to do with America? It's sad that people saying Americans should be first is like a derogatory thing to say. That's sad. I don't understand how we got to this point, but we're here. Nonetheless, my name is LFR Jojo. I'm going to leave this video here. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.